The 2011 FIA World Touring Car Championship makes a brand new stop. Round 7 and 8 are just outside the beautiful city of Budapest in Hungary. 12 kilometres from the centre of the Hungarian capital is the first ever Grand Prix track in Eastern Europe. The Hungaroring. 20 years ago it was a landmark and one of the major signs that the former status of East and West may have been changing. And for the World Touring Car Championship, it is a first ever appearance at the venue. And what a welcome it has been. You will see as the cars are on the grid just how busy this track is. It is absolutely heaving and the roads are still packed with metal as people try to get in. The motorway, the M3 leading out of town, is blocked. Look in the background there. Two-lane road leads up to the circuit. It is wall-to-wall cars. It's 45 degrees here on track. Nearly 30 degrees of air temperature. It's a bright sunny Sunday, and despite the fact that the races are on nice and early to clear the airwaves for the men's final at Roland Garros of the French Open, it is the first appearance of the World Touring Car Championship here, and the fans have come out in their tens of thousands. It's anticipated possibly there might be as many as 100,000 fans here. Whether or not that is the case, one of the reasons for their appearance is the man there with a little green arrow by his name, Norbert Michelis, Hungarian driver, and he, his team and his sponsors have become major stars here. There are 25 camera crews from Hungary alone covering this event this weekend, as well as Eurosport's HD, and in the grandstands you can see the fans showing their support for their man. Massive support here for their man, with loads of posters, and as you can see they're holding them all up, red, white and green, the colours of Hungary's national flag. Well, it's not all about the Hungarian driver, although he's had a great start to the weekend. We've also got to look here at Rob Huff. I'm delighted to be joined by Vauxhall and Chevrolet driver Harry Volkart. And Harry, Rob, just with his engineer, got it wrong in qualifying. They were trying to get into the bottom of the top 10 in the first session, and their lap time was good enough, but too many people had already been good enough beforehand, and he ended up bumped out of the top 10 into 12th place. He's got a lot of work to do. Yeah, that's right, Martin. The new qualifying system, which isn't very well liked by most of the grid, it requires you to finish, if you come in the top 10, it basically reverses the top 10. So a lot of the guys are aiming to kind of finish as low down the top 10 in the first part of qualifying as possible. And it just, I guess the devil you dance with in that is that if you don't quite make it in the top 10, you're stuck in 11th or 12th as Rob is. And so it was only a tenth of a second would have made the difference, but just a tiny little error. Well, Rob has got a significant Drivers' Championship lead. Nearly 40 points is the spread between him and his closely fought rivals behind. His two teammates, though, are on the front row of the grid. Ivan Muller and Alain Menu start on row 1 here, with Menu claiming his first pole position since Brands Hatch 2009. Gosh, it really doesn't seem like that long, but I guess to Alain, maybe it does. There he is with John Waterman, the race engineer with the white hair, just checking final details, tyre temperatures, tyre pressures, making sure everything is sorted, and of course the aluminium blanket on the top to reject some of the heat of the sun, to try and keep the interior as humanly cool as possible. But it is going to be very hot indeed. Well, qualifying, again, it was this juggling act, trying to be quick but not too quick. You don't want to be the fastest because that'll leave you 10th on the race 1 grid. You want to be close to 10th on the race 2 grid, rather. You want to be close to the bottom of the top 10. And then in Q2, it's all about going hell for leather for the top 10 positions on the race 1 grid. And Menu pulled out the best lap, so starts from the most advantageous position here for the first time in a couple of years. And you know, he and Muller, they're both former champions of the British Touring Car Champion. Ivan, of course, a double World Touring Car Champion as well now. So, you know, they're very experienced guys. You expect them to run safely through the first corner, and it's down to Rob Huff to try and catch them. Here's a look at the grid then. Menu and Muller behind. This might be really significant. The BMW threat for the first time looking really cohesive. Javi Villa third, Tom Coronel fourth. drop-off in practice, the BMW drivers were worried quite a lot about. Norbert Michelis, the young Hungarian, disappointed to be only 5th in this race and 6th in the other. He thought he had a front row car. Robert Dahlgren, 6th position, best qualifying for Volvo ahead of Thiago Monteiro and Christian Poulsen. Again, Poulsen, another BMW driver. Monteiro with Tarquini, his teammate behind him. They're the best of the Seats, the diesel engine cars. The petrol engine cars, Mikel Nukia, Fabio Oriola and Freddie Bart, they're all together there, 13th, 14th, 15th. They haven't yet produced what the latent talent perhaps of the engine suggests is available. They haven't managed to harness it. They've had too many new car installation problems. Of course, Harry, you know, when you change engines, when you go from something fundamentally different, you're going to end up with problems like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's a big development process with any new part to a car, and especially the engine, probably the most critical piece of the car. And yeah, these guys are struggling a little bit this weekend.
Shimmering in the heat is the grid for round 7 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship. Gabriele Tarquini's friends and fan club are here as ever, but significantly outnumbered by the number of Norbert Michelis supporters. That is without a doubt. Tarquini starts disappointingly low down the grid, only 9th position, and he is the 2nd best of all the Seat drivers. One row in front of him is Thiago Monteiro, the turbo diesel that for so long ruled the roost in terms of power and performance. Now that the petrol turbo engines are here, is very much in the back seat, isn't it, Harry? They are developing their own petrol turbo engine. The Sunred team have already introduced it into 3 of their 6 cars, but with it comes a weight penalty, and that's possibly the reason that Tarquini and Monteiro haven't jumped immediately to what seems to be a quicker engine. Yeah,
I think so, and they obviously have the reliability in the turbo diesel. They've run it for several years now, so that must be a big pull for those 2 guys who are definite championship contenders. They want to score as many points as possible at the early points of the season and can't really afford to have any breakdowns.
Well, that's a very valid point as well. You know, it's great being quick, but quick and reliable is really what it's all about. So they don't want to be throwing points away unnecessarily. You saw Christian Poulsen, again, good qualifying for him. The BMWs have been really strong here. This is a good handling circuit. It's quite technical, but it does mean that some of the longer, quicker corners are going to work the front-wheel drive tyres pretty hard. And there you see Thiago Monteiro starts 7th on the grid. He's the best of the turbo diesel Seats, the best of all the Seats in front, apart from the Chevrolets. He is the best of the front-wheel drive cars as well. So BMW really behind the blue cars on the front row. There's a big wedge of them rammed in there, and they are looking, again, very competitive here.
The BMW seem to have taken a big step forward. Perhaps it's a circuit layout, perhaps it's a temperature. They've certainly come a bit, they seem a bit closer to Chevrolet this weekend, and it'll be interesting to see during the race, because I suspect that the Chevrolets have been very quick in qualifying compared to their race pace, and I think we'll see the same from all the front-wheel drives.
Well, I think what you're saying about BMW is probably borne out by the presence of Robert Dahlgren here as well. You know, in terms of outright top speed and air-cheating low drag, this C30 hatchback is not a great shape on the long straight at Monza, but it handles well now, and this is a good circuit. As you said yesterday in qualifying, Ash, I think it's like the sort of circuits they race on in Scandinavia. Quite turny, quite twisty, not major high-speed stuff. Well, look at Norbert Michelis trying to focus and just put all of the dramas around him behind him. He spent a fortnight coming up to this race almost doing, well, again, listen, almost doing nothing but TV and media interviews. Apparently when he came here on Thursday he could barely speak anymore because he'd done so much talking. But as a result, look at this, you know, there's getting on for 100,000 people in here. This is an absolutely massive, massive crowd, and they are all here on the back of him. Having a driver in a championship makes such a difference to how it's perceived in a nation.
I don't think I've ever seen a crowd like this at a motorsport race before. Just absolutely nuts.
Well, partly it's having a local hero, partly it's the fact, as we said earlier, that the tickets are free entry here, and to get in, to get a VIP pass to go into the paddock and wander around is the equivalent of a £5. So it is well within everybody's reach. And also, you know, he's competitive. He was at the back of the grid, it might be different, but he's not. He's competitive. He's at the sharp end of the grid. He's in there swinging with the world champions and the former, you know, national champions there. And, you know, he starts in 5th place. In front of him, 2 more BMWs again, so it's not just one team, it's not just one BMW driver that's got hooked up. You've got 3 cars from 3 completely different teams, 3 drivers with very different backgrounds, all within a few hundreds of each other. Tom Coronel, this young Spanish guy, Javi Villa, again, first year in touring cars, came out of GP2 where he raced for the last 2 or 3 seasons. Race winner in GP2, 500 horsepower rear-wheel drive single-seaters. Slightly more progressive power delivery, I imagine, than this turbo BMW, but he's made a good transition. You know, second row here, he's really got a good chance of a podium for the first time.
Yeah, he's driven really well the last few races, and he certainly seems to have sprung a bit of a surprise here.
And our world champion is on the front row of the grid. Ivan Muller and Alain Menu both have trailed in terms of points, results, and possibly arguably good fortune as well behind their teammate Rob Huff. And they are, you know, about a 40-point gap. There's very little between the two of them there. You know, nominally, I suppose, 40 points behind, but it's a 50-point race weekend. You know, Rob Huff last time out in Monza won both races, so only the 3rd man in touring car history to do so. And, you know, that gives you a big boost no matter what your teammates do, whether they finish well or poorly. If you get maximum points both times out, you know, that's an enormous achievement. So these guys now must capitalise just to stop Rob getting too far away. Yeah,
they have to score as many points as possible to kind of keep that gap from growing. What else is interesting is what the Chevrolets are obviously all carrying 40 kilos, where the BMs have gone up a little bit, but it didn't cross my mind during qualifying, but obviously the Volvo is minus 20 kilos, so that could also help explain a little bit why it's jumped up in performance.
Well, that's very true, and that will help that, you know, 60 kilos lighter. If the Volvo can get down to that minimum weight, I mean, and that's all part of the equation as well. I know the Seats can't get down to their minimum weight. The car is still heavier than actually legally it has to be. All of the weight you carry is all weight that's working the tyres in the corner, that you've got to brake, that you've got to accelerate back out of the corners. And so, yeah, the heavier the car is, I mean, like a road car, if you think of something like a Mini, light, nippy and nimble, think of something like, I don't know, Rolls-Royce, it's not going to corner in the same way. It's got 2.5 tons to try and get round the corner compared to the 0.5 ton of the Mini, so it's never going to be the same. So, yeah, having more weight, 60 kilos doesn't sound like a lot, but it is like having a decent-sized passenger beside you, and nobody's going to suggest that as a good performance addition.
No, a lot of, I've heard it said before quite a lot of times that you can pretty much equate 10 kilos to about 1/10 of a second, so, you know, half a second that's night and day around a race circuit.
Yeah. Absolutely, and on a track like this where there are a lot of corners, it's probably, you know, a greater part of the percentage as well. Well, we are ready to roll off then. Menu has moved, or Muller has as well, but didn't look like he was quite ready in the crowd. Appreciating the fact that Norbert Michaelis has now left the grid. Every single move that car makes all weekend has been to a cheer of approval from this massive crowd to get in to see them. Final couple of corners behind the safety car. The Zengo team that runs local hero Norbert Michaelis here are looking as apprehensive as you could probably imagine they might. He will start in 5th position, but behind our pacing car, Alain Menu on the left, Ivan Muller on the right for Chevrolet, 1st and 2nd on the grid. This is, just saw a quick onboard view from Norbert Michaelis. We hear that there may be a problem on Norbert Michaelis' car. Not quite sure what that might be. The team looking a little worried. And it would be a real disaster for him if this was all to go wrong for mechanical problems. Last couple of corners. There's the team boss. He's looking okay at the moment, though. The safety car pulls off with the red flag of Switzerland on his roof.